Investigations against Spahn have been dropped. The public broadcasters and WELT are doing what they do well, especially well. They falsify graphics to mislead the public. And I just stole that now, but I think it's absolutely fitting. It's like when you watch the Titanic movie for the 10th time and still think the same thing on the 10th time. Will the ship really make it to the United States this time, or will it sink again? And it sank. Who would have thought things are already getting loud at WELT? Do you seriously still believe that this firewall will hold until the end of the year? And I'm telling you, yes, they'll probably already start in Baden-Württemberg and slowly test the waters. What will happen if this firewall is possibly torn down? But at the latest in 13 days, there will also be loud voices in the Christian Democratic Union asking whether it might be better to just tear down the firewall. That's why we're moving on to today's top topics. And last, Klingbeil is now admitting election mistakes, but not in the way you thought.
So you could just say, you can appoint the minister-president, you call Mr. Frohnmayer tonight and say, let's talk, and we'll appoint the minister-president. Do you really believe that if you lose in Rhineland-Palatinate now, the firewall will still hold this year? And what are people supposed to do if they say they're arguing a bit here, but in the end,
they're all on a first-name basis, not really arguing, and are absolutely friendly with each other, just to then, who would have thought, push through the policies they all want, while the will of the people is once again clearly being ignored. The people want a centre-right led state government. And what do they get? Left-green. Only because that way they form the majority, this time a solid majority. And take a look at this graphic and pay attention to the 34 seats of the Alternative for Germany.
The largest opposition party will be the Alternative for Germany with 35 seats.
Do it. They actually do it on purpose. That's election advertising. I mean, just take a look. Yeah, how much the Alternative for Germany lost in the last state elections. Now on WELT, so something's not right here. But Lars Klingbeil has now really admitted mistakes and what he wants to do better. And please try not to laugh at all this.
I'm sitting here at a very large table, and no matter if it's in politics, in the financial sector, in business, or in other circles where I'm often present as a politician, often there are almost only men sitting there, or especially too many men, and I think that needs to change.
So, if you ask me, yes, I would always give the job to the person who can do it best. That's my opinion. I don't know how you see it, but I definitely think that the most qualified person should get the job. Just imagine if our country were to go down the drain. Because, for example, we fill ministerial positions with the wrong people because they're good for nothings or just have absolutely no idea what they're doing.
And by the way, dear men, it's not the women's job to just try harder, to be better, and to fight for their place at the table. But we men can also do a lot to make the situation better.
Yeah, just give the ministerial office to some dumb, incompetent Social Democratic Party member, right? They can't make things any worse anyway. Guys, what kind of statement is that? Whoever wants to become the federal chancellor, whoever wants to become a minister, no matter what, should fight for their job. And he shouldn't care at all which chairs he has to tear down or who he has to burn down. He should represent our country and not be part of that Social Democratic Party clique. He says, yeah, I'll just let the woman go first because she's a woman. It's about qualifications. Mr. Klingbeil, the fact that you don't understand any of this because you're acting really strange is something we all know. That's just as much of a dumb statement as what the first Christian Democratic Union guys said, who suggested that you could share the Prime Minister, with Manuel Hegel, because you're not that far apart anyway. But no, you could also just call Mr. Frohnmayer and say, hey, listen up. We need a government and we need it as soon as possible to save the economy. What do you even have in store for Baden-Württemberg? Is there something in it that would immediately relieve the economy, something we could implement right here, yes or no? If he says no, you can just hang up right away, yeah, then you can still run to the Greens, but that's something we share. The ministerial office, that's just as stupid as if you had, for example, made mask deals that cost the taxpayers billions. And then that happens, just look at that, the case was dropped. Why? Because there is no sufficient evidence of a crime. That's it. He's just allowed to quickly throw away our tax money for some half-baked principals can hire companies, all in nepotism. Yes, and just a tiny side note on Zweites Deutsches Fernsehen, that's all there is. And yes, in the investigative committee. He was even allowed to lie all around himself there because, well, it wasn't a parliamentary inquiry committee.
Since yesterday, the Free Democratic Party has now finally disappeared from the political stage in Germany, so to speak. It will no longer play a role. You can regret that, but 4% for the Free Democratic Party is 4% too little. It's at least 1% too little for the Free Democratic Party, but 4% too little for the Christian Democratic Union. And that's why I would also like to call on all Free Democratic Party voters to now vote for the Christian Democratic Union in Rhineland-Palatinate so that there can be a corresponding change in office. Mr. President.
Yes, because all you can promise people now is, folks, either things will continue as they are or you vote out the old parties. One or the other, but that's how election campaigns are run these days. Have you actually noticed that? I mean, that's actually already, like I said at the beginning with the Titanic, yeah, that's what it's like when you watch Titanic 10 times. Yeah, and the 10th time you think, please, please, dear Titanic, just make it to America this time, and you can see the iceberg. You're like, the other new episodes also crashed into it. Yes, please, dear Free Democratic Party voters, now come on, please, yeah, and vote for the Christian Democratic Union. It's dead anyway, nobody wants it anymore, and now you all have to vote left. Otherwise, yeah, will that put a dent in my reputation? That's the election campaign, because even there, one thing will happen again during the campaign. Yes, and please just keep voting. More unemployment, more housing shortages, more bankruptcies, more unemployed people, more violent crimes on these streets. Please, folks, that's what you want. Just vote for the Christian Democratic Union. If not, well, then you have to vote for opposition parties. But there aren't that many left from there.
So to speak, the minister president only for such and such a period of time, to the Greens, then to the Christian Democratic Union or whatever. But the Christian Democratic Union doesn't have any leverage at all. There is no alternative to this concept.
Again, here is Zweites Deutsches Fernsehen once more. Yes, there is no alternative, so no alternative. Of course, if they have 95% of all the seats, then it doesn't make any sense. Then they can only do it together. Oh man, yes, the Christian Democratic Union would just need to grow a pair. But since Söder is already, let's say, having some minor problems in Bavaria, we'll see how that goes. And I hope that in 13 days, yes, we'll already see it during the election campaign. That the Christian Democratic Union will drop even further, and that at the latest they'll have to consider whether to change something about their policies or just keep going the same way when they go to the east. And yes, in Berlin it would still be in second place. Now, according to the latest polls, I forgot the name, maybe you can write it for me below, it would.